than the pipe stems accompanying them. From 2 to 5 feet in length, the sanctity of the pipe lay as much in its wooden stem as in the bowl itself. In fact, for certain purposes, the stem alone was used. Covered with elaborate wrappings, decked with eagle feathers, paint, and cords of braided porcupine quills, the ornaments represented some of the objects which had symbolic meaning in the ritual. The Plains tribes often bound to the stem several woodpecker heads with the beaks turned back upon their red crests. When the woodpecker was angry, its red crest always rose, and this binding of the beak upon the crest symbolized the suppression of anger. When a tribe was at war, the sinew bindings were cut, allowing the crests of the birds to rise from the pipe stem. When not in use, the bowl was carefully wrapped and placed inside a pipe bundle, while the ornate stem was usually tied to the outside of the bundle. The limb from which a stem would be made was cut from a sapling, usually of ash. It was then heated over a fire, straightened, and cut to the required length. With some tribes, this distance was carefully measured off as 4 times the span between the thumb and the longest finger. The limb was then split down the middle, and the exposed pith scraped out of the center to form a channel through which the smoke might pass. At one time, the tradition of some tribes dictated that even the inside surfaces of the branch be ceremonially painted. With the exception of the groove itself, one half would be made a sky blue color, and the other half a verdant green of the earth. Then, as a prayer was intoned, asking that life be breathed into this sacred object, the chief priest would paint the grooves red to typify the passageways of the body through which the breath of man comes and departs. When the two halves were glued together again, they symbolized the path of man's life surrounded by the spirits of heaven and earth. But the split stem seen being assembled here was not always satisfactory. With age, the halves sometimes warped and separated. The characteristic flat shape of the finished stem may have evolved in an effort to provide a broader gluing surface where the halves of the stem were joined together. Later, when metal became available, a heated wire was used to burn a channel down the center of the stem without ever splitting it. But even before that time, some ingenious tribes devised their own answer to the problem. They would find a wood-boring grub, which they placed in one end of the limb. They then heated that portion over a fire. Following a path of least resistance, the grub would eat its way up through the soft pith in the center, leaving behind it a hole from one end of the limb to the other. Before a pipe could be used in any ceremony, it had to be consecrated. Wrapped in fresh sage, it was placed before an elder, whose task it was to prepare the altar for the sacred role it would be called upon to play. Filling the first pipeful of tobacco was a delicate operation. A man was forbidden to pack the tobacco down with his fingers, lest the gods take his life in the belief that he was offering himself along with the tobacco as a sacrifice. The first pipe was therefore frequently tamped with a broken arrow captured from an enemy warrior. The solemn rite being performed by this Sioux priest had its origin generations ago. Yet in essence its meaning is strangely similar to prayers heard elsewhere in other tongues. Expressions of gratitude to the sun because it gave them light, to the moon because she was believed to influence vegetation, to the earth because it gave them support, to the fire because of its benefit in cooking, to the evil spirits to appease their anger, and to the good spirits for providing all things needed in this lifetime. It is difficult now to realize that this predecessor of the modern pipe once represented a significant advance in the religious development of the American Indian. Yet the Indian's calumet was such a milestone. For the earliest inhabitants of this continent, tobacco was a plant of divine origin. Its transformation into incense provided a path along which prayers might find their way to the beings beyond, a visible messenger to the invisible. to the unseen forces that would shape their destiny and dictate their actions.
Bathe now in the stream before you. Wash the war paint from your faces. Wash the blood stains from your fingers, and bury your war clubs and your weapons. Break the red stones from this quarry. Mold and make it into peace pipes. Take the reeds that grow beside you. Deck them with your brightest feathers. Smoke the calumet together, and as brothers live henceforward.
In the centuries that separate modern man from his forebears, there is much that he has forgotten.
Hey oh hey hallelujah oh hallelujah hallelujah ti ga la ta hallelujah ni ga ta ne ho hallelujah 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 oh hallelujah 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 oh hallelujah hallelujah hallelujah